The narrative begins with a girl named Rocio drumming in her bedroom. Shortly, a woman named Giselle enters, claiming to be the city's top model. She suggests that the children become child models. Giselle's perseverance eventually persuades the father, who was initially skeptical. He grudgingly agrees to allow her to register his children on the same day. Giselle then asks the father to take his children to a posh city hotel for a photo shoot. To prevent distracting the children, the father does not enter the room upon his arrival. Giselle instructs him to return at 7 p.m. to pick them up. The children appear to be eager about their modeling opportunities throughout the photo shoot. At 7 o'clock, the father comes to the motel, but when he opens the door, he finds it vacant. His children are nowhere to be seen. Panic sets in, and he desperately hunts for aid, understanding that his 2 children have been taken. The story moves to the American police, who have organized a special team to deal with the increasing number of child kidnappings. Timo leads the team, which is entrusted with apprehending a suspect named Sam, who is suspected of child predation. While Sam is focused on his computer, the squad, commanded by Timo, goes in quickly to make the arrest. Timo instantly scans the contents of Sam's PC after successfully apprehending him. Surprisingly, he discovers a video of Sam engaging in inappropriate activities with the child. Timo is overcome with emotion and can't stop crying. Timo pays a visit to Sam in his cell in search of answers. Timo takes a misleading strategy instead of confronting, looking empathetic and understanding. Sam, fooled into believing Timo is an ally, leans closer, oblivious to the implications of his actions. Timo communicates his proposal to his supervisor the next day, ensuring a week for its execution. Later, he walks Sam out of the building, giving the impression that Sam has regained his freedom. Tim proposes a bargain with Sam at the dining table, with charges dropped in exchange for a favor. Tim expresses his desire for Sam's help in accomplishing his objectives, specifically asking that he contact friends to find a young person to fulfill his ambitions. Sam agrees, despite being unaware of Homeland Security's close monitoring. The next day, Sam meets with his contact to put the plan into action, hoping to surprise Tim by making the accusations disappear. However, Sam is unaware that Homeland Security is closely monitoring him and has incriminating images of his acts. Tim and Sam plan to meet at a nearby diner later that evening. Sam hands Tim a book with a picture of a youngster named Miguel in it. Tim is shocked after realizing the boy. However, Tim smiles as red and blue lights brighten the diner and then arrests Sam. Tim waits at the Mexican border the next day, anticipating Sam's contact. Tim detects something awry despite his apparent appearance of normalcy. The contact is quickly apprehended, and when Tim unlocks the rear door of the vehicle, he discovers a terrified Miguel inside. Tim takes the boy out for a burger to create a bond while assuring him that everything will be fine. The child is taken aback when Tim reveals his name, Tomoto, in Spanish. His sister had given him a pendant bearing the name Tomoto, which represented the savior of children. Inquiring about the boy's sister, he reveals that they were imprisoned in a cargo container months ago and taken by boat to the port of Carta, and he has lost track of her whereabouts. Tim observes the emotional reunion at the airport after coordinating a flight for the boy's father, Roberto, to be reunited with his son. When the youngster spots his father in the crowd, he runs into his arms, thanking Tim for being his savior. Before they part ways, the youngster hands Tim his pendant and tightly embraces him. Despite the happy reunion, the boy's sister, Rocio, is distant, dealing with terrible situations. Tim meets with his supervisor the next day to discuss the need for further action. Despite his initial reluctance, Tim's impassioned plea convinces his employer to allow him to continue his mission. Tim boards an aircraft and travels south of the border to meet with fellow cop Jorge, asking for aid in locating Rocio. Jorge connects him to Vampiro, a former cartel member with trafficking knowledge. Tim outlines his ambitious proposal to save 50 children, revealing that a wealthy donor is willing to fund the operation. Tim reveals their method, saying that they will masquerade as millionaires, throwing a big party and putting on a show of excessive spending to save the children. Vampiro contacts a friend, El Calicas, who knows where to find children for their business. Vampiro deceives El Calicas into believing that a group of wealthy American tourists is looking for grandiose parties and is willing to spend lavishly for fun. El Calicas, enticed by the prospect of a large payoff, unwittingly assists their monitoring by directing them directly to his contacts, including Giselle, the lady responsible for misleading Roberto and abducting his children, among others. Tim's supervisor reaches a breaking point as he becomes irritated with the slow pace. He proclaims the mission done, unable to offer cover any longer, and advises Tim to return home. Tim confides in his wife in the evening, struggling with doubt. In search of a solution, she advises him to resign his career and devote his time to helping the children. Tim makes a difficult call to his boss the next day and presents his resignation. However, Tim's wealthy sponsor, Paul, expresses discontent with his departure from the government. Because of Tim's Homeland Security connections, Paul relishes playing a role in law enforcement. Despite Tim's attempts to grasp the broader cause and the children's severe suffering, Paul remains unmoved. Tim underlines the prospect of making a substantial change while cautioning that such concerns may suddenly hit close to home. Unfortunately, Paul has lost interest and will not provide any additional support. Paul returns to Tim's hotel room after having a change of heart, claiming a sudden readiness to assist. Having a meeting with Vampiro, Paul proposes purchasing an island as a front for having a great party, bringing together a large number of children and traffickers in one place. The goal is to plan a law enforcement operation, save the children, and catch the traffickers. The plan is set in motion once the island documents are signed. They explain the notion of the island party and their relationship to the traffickers to El Calicas. El Calicas, excited by the idea of working with wealthy individuals, takes photographs of the island with the intention of sharing them with his contacts. Giselle agrees to provide the youngsters for the party. Later, Vampiro introduces Giselle to Paul, and the two methodically examine the event's specifics. The plan's genius lies in capturing the traffickers on the island, enabling a smooth and successful law enforcement operation. The police deliberately position speedboats on the other side of the island after deploying surveillance. However, the arrival of the children presents a big obstacle. Their numbers are significantly lower than predicted. Tim is reassured by Giselle that the rest of the children are on their way. Tim immediately contacts the police commander, highlighting the necessity of waiting for the remaining children before beginning the raid, with the primary goal of maximizing child rescue. Tim also urges the commander to isolate one individual without handcuffing him in order to create the impression that he is the informant. Soon after, a distant boat appears, signifying the time for decisive action. As the boat approaches the coast, the police force initiates an immediate raid on the island. Following that, a surprising revelation emerges during the interrogation of one of the traffickers. It is discovered that Rocio was sold to El Alacran, or the Scorpion, a formidable rebel leader. This unexpected turn shifts the inquiry in a new direction, making the hunt for Rocio even more risky. Jorge, knowing of the risks, advises that approaching El Alacran's land is a dangerous operation, even for the military. Despite the bleak truth, Tim is unfazed and refuses to give up on the goal. At this time, Vampiro comes up with an audacious scheme. They will pose themselves as missionary doctors in the hope that El Alacran will allow doctors to enter his territory and provide medical care to his people. With their strategy in place, Tim and Vampiro set off for the Scorpion province, posing as doctors. Their goal is to raise awareness of their existence in the hopes that word will spread throughout the region. However, they get confronted by the rebel guards who aggressively check their items. Realizing they are carrying only vaccines, they request only one person to go with them and Tim volunteers. Tim is surprised to be accepted for his medical services after successfully gaining access to El Alacran's area. Taking advantage of the opportunity to find Rocio, he navigates the core of the zone and finds her among a group of drug processors. Despite Tim's promises of good intentions, Rocio remains skeptical, which is understandable given the circumstances. Tim locates Rocio in El Alacran's hut under the cover of darkness, revealing his intention to rescue her and return her home. El Alacran's return abruptly ends their talk. Tim quickly conceals himself, taking advantage of the Scorpion's brief preoccupation. A fierce confrontation ensues, and Tim manages to overpower and eliminate El Alacrán in the midst of the conflict. Tim seizes the opportunity and flees the village with Rocio up to the river. While they sail away, the rebels get notified and a purse begins. Tim manages to reach the shores, where they get rescued by Jorge and Vampiro amidst the shootings. Later, Rocio awakens to her father's calming presence, resulting in a long-awaited reunion with her brother. Finally, on her journey home, it is revealed that Tim Ballard testified before the United States Congress. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.